A $220 million budget, amazing visuals, compelling, emotional, heart-wrenching story, combat mechanics 10 times better than the first game, countless Game of the Year accolades, a 20 to 25 hour completion time, and one really big problem. 80% of the time I was bored, just doing what felt like nothing. Welcome to completion number 53 of the Potato Backlog Project. Check below for more details. Make sure you stick around at the end of the video for the Cordyceps Outbreak Immune Tater Raider. And let's talk about The Last of Us Part 2. I managed to stay story spoiler free until my first playthrough, so I won't spoil any story for you either, just in case, because it's decent and I enjoyed it. I want to talk about the biggest problem I had with the game, but before that I needed to let you know that it's not a bad game. Obviously, bad games don't get the praise this game received. It's visually one of the most impressive games I've ever played. The narrative is emotionally hard-hitting, very compelling, it's epic in scope, and it's extremely polished. It's blockbuster AAA movie quality production in video game format. They did stumble a bit on the intro. It's nowhere near as good as The Last of Us Part 1, but that's okay. Not many games are going to be able to top the intro of that first game. They did, however, fix one of the biggest gripes I had with the first game, the combat. The retooled melee made it a viable option this go around and changed the gameplay dynamic drastically. I felt like I had much more control and freedom in approaching fights and conflicts, and more importantly, they were fun this time. I didn't dread them like in the first game or rush through them. Collision detection was tightened up and almost perfect. Enemy AI was night and day as well. I also enjoyed all the dialogue and insane details thrown into these moments. For me, the combat was the best part of the game this go around, which is a really good thing. I would also be remiss to not mention the game's accessibility options. From everything I understand, they are top notch in the industry. The real problem for me at this game is the massive amount of downtime between anything happening. You have this compelling story, an insanely detailed world that it's happening in. You've upped the combat gameplay, and yet you still stretch out the stuff in between to levels that could literally put people to sleep. For me, the breakdown felt like this: 10% combat, 10% cutscenes, or a live action event that moves the story along, and the other 80% of my time was spent searching dark rooms for supplies, reading notes left by people. There are what feels like hundreds, or you're just walking, and sometimes walking and hearing a little bit of exposition. Those aren't necessarily bad things in a game, especially a game world that feels as real as this one. The bad thing is when you don't balance it properly against everything else that's going on. There were stretches of what felt like 1 to 2 hours where nothing really happened. You finally get an exciting 5 minutes and then they dump you right back into some slow walking sequence. If you sum up all the actual events of the game and ask someone that hadn't played it to guess how long the playthrough is, no one is gonna guess and tell you 25 hours. That game sounds like 25 hours, man. No way. At times, it almost felt too purposely drawn out, like padding a playtime just to be able to brag about the stat. Yeah, our game is super long. If it's super long and boring 80% of the time, that just doesn't matter. I understand story building, world building, developing characters, but as I've argued in other videos, this can be done at much better pace for this style of game. I finished the game and my first thought was that it probably could have ended 5 to 10 hours sooner. Easily. They do have a new game plus mode here, but I couldn't be bothered to play through it again, even with skipping cutscenes. There is just too much walking and searching in the dark with a tiny little flashlight to be worth playing again, even for the great combat. I'm actually happy to hear the remaster is including a game mode focused on the combat. It was by far the best part of the game, and it's awesome that they've developed a mode where it can shine. And from what I'm hearing, it's pretty good. Say what you will about the story and the characters, they executed on their vision. If you liked it or not is always going to be subjective. The performances are amazing and I enjoyed what happened in it. I just think they lost momentum a ton. The use of flashback scenes was mismanaged and payoffs to buildups were hurt by how everything was pieced together. It's frustrating for me because when the game hits, it hits. You feel things and it's exciting and fun and memorable, but it always managed to bring itself down in a bad way and usually very quickly. By the end, I was just done with it. I was just bored and sick of looking around dark rooms and walking to get the supplies that I needed to survive the next encounter. I'm also willing to bet a lot of people would have enjoyed the story more if it had been paced and pieced together in a better way. Maybe I'm old and jaded. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. And let me know if you're planning to get the remaster. 4 happy potato faces out of 5. There is so much good in this game, and it's unfortunate that they stretched that good as thin as they did. This is a long haul, so be ready for that if you pick it up to play it. The combat alone has me thinking about spending the $10 to upgrade to the remastered version, which comes out today, which for me says a lot about the improvements from game 1 to game 2, where the combat in game 1 was just, it just wasn't great. It wasn't fun. With that, the Backlog project rolls on. Be kind to yourselves and others that deserve it. We're on to the next one. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video for the Cordyceps outbreak. Cordyceps? Giuseppe and the Cordyceps. It's like a new band name. Ellie and the Cordyceps. Dun 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 dun. Huh.